Welcome to Career Landscapes, a peek into professional lives, brought to you by One Voice for Change. I'm your host, Felicity Minch, and today we are speaking with Dr. Andrew Ranucci, a dentist in Longmont, Colorado. And I would like to take a moment and read a bit about him. Dr. Andrew J. Ranucci has been a dentist in private practice in Longmont for 28 years, providing our patients with all aspects of dental services in a small, low-volume dental office. Our focus is on patient and the quality of care they are given. Highlights over the years include feeling like our patients in Longmont are part of our extended family. Some we have been seeing for 28 years. Also traveling to remote parts of the world to provide free dental care to those in need. Education was received at the University of Medicine and Dentistry in New Jersey, undergraduate education from Syracuse University in New York. Welcome, Andrew. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Felicity. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, great. The students want to know what it's like to be a dentist, what you have to do to be a dentist. And so they're excited to hear your words and advice about dentistry. So I'd
Sure.
love to start with just tell me about your education. What do you need to be a dentist? What goes into your education?
Sure. So, you know, you're under a 4-year undergraduate degree. At the time I went to school, that was not required. You could finish 3 years of college courses as long as you had the right sciences and the math. Then you could apply for dental school without having a graduation from your 4-year program, which some students that I went to school with took advantage of that. Um, yeah, and so I had got a 4-year degree in biology, and so then went on to dental school after that, which is in New Jersey. Most of the schools are a 4-year program. I believe there's one school in San Francisco, the University of the Pacific, that's a 3-year program. And so, but most of them are a 4-year program, and they was I will say it was a challenging 4 years,
What
but certainly, just it was, to me it was more hard work than it was something that was not, you weren't able to accomplish it. It's just if you put in the time and put in the work, then you were able to accomplish it.
So mainly, is it mainly science classes? What kind of classes? And
Yes, but
what would you suggest kids in high school really focus on if they're going into dentistry?
sure. I would focus on my weak points, which is chemistry.
Yeah.
Um, the biology always came easy for me, but I would focus on biology, chemistry, and math.
Mm.
Would be the three things. And if and also dentistry requires a certain amount of manual dexterity, which I think is very important. If you feel like you're someone who enjoys working with your hands, it and uh, that's how I was introduced to dentistry. Was a friend of my father's, who maybe was my big influence in dental school. He always watched me tinkering around uh, the house, doing different projects, working on cars and engines, and he said, "You would make a great dentist." And I followed through with that, and I feel like it came very easy for me.
Mm.
Just having that manual dexterity.
And that actually leads right into a question. A 15-year-old student asks, he's left-handed, and so am I.
Hmm.
He
Yeah,
asks, is the equipment made for left-handed or right-handed, or does it make not a bit of difference?
it doesn't make a bit of difference. They make the equipment for both right-handed and left-handed, and there's varieties of way the equipment is delivered to you and the patient, and so you you can find something that's comfortable for you. That should
Oh,
not be an issue.
great. And what is your greatest joy about being a dentist?
Seeing people smile, making people making people smile, and just uh the people, having an interaction. You're there one on one with an individual, and sometimes it's a very uncomfortable position for them, but being able to comfort them, and yeah, just human interaction. I think one is one of the nice things about our profession.
Yeah,
You have the time to, and that's all you do all day long,
yeah,
is interact with people.
yeah. That's
Not
great.
not always, yeah, not always great, but the majority of the time it's wonderful.
Yeah, I love the human connection. I'm a teacher, so I love the one-on-one teaching guitar students, um,
Yeah.
uh, doing music, playing in ensembles, meeting people backstage. It's wonderful to have that
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
connection. What are the downfalls of the job, or what are some of the problems that you run into being a
uh I- one of the I'm 59 years old now, and one of the downsides I have found and have had to work with is the toll it will take on your body. You're in a very sometimes a very awkward position to be able to see what you are doing, and so I would, one of the biggies I would tell people is, when as soon as they start that career, make sure their posture is correct, and doing something outside of the office. I about 10, 15 years ago started doing Pilates regularly because I was having some issues with my body,
Hmm.
the stiff neck, the numbness in the arm and fingers, and then you have to do something to take care of that and counteract the being in that repetitive motion thing, I guess, is what you'd
Mhm.
call it.
Many musicians, we work on Feldenkrais. It's a program to work with our body.
Uh-huh.
And hairdressers have the same thing. Their hands
Yes.
out. And
Auto mechanics.
yeah,
Yes, hairdressers, auto mechanics, dentists. We all get into some funny positions to just to be able to see what we're doing. And
mhm,
most of the time you can stay in that correct posture while you're working, but it's just impossible to do it all the time. You've got to
right.
spin your head upside down, and
What inspired you to be a dentist? Was this
I I
from being a kid?
I
Oh,
think it was like I said before, with our family friend who watched me tinker as a kid with, and I was always taking things apart, seeing how they worked, and my father was a doctor. He was an MD, and his office was in our house, or in our home where we grew up, and so I got to see some of that human interaction and how nice it is to be able to help people, to do some good.
yes, yes. And what personal qualities should a person have to be a dentist, be in this field?
Personal qualities. I think you have to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think you have to have the ability to tolerate quite a few, and you grow with that. But I think you're working in someone's mouth with, uh, which may not be always the most pleasant experience. People, when people have something bad going on, there's can be some odors and some sights uh, you may not like seeing. And I remember our first day of dental school, or one of the first days, was the gross anatomy lab, uh, where we were doing our dissections, and we had about 4 or 5 students drop out within the first 2 or 3 days, because they weren't made for that. They can't. You have to be able to uh, deal with just working on a human being, and that's
And
another thing I would say is you got to realize there's a human being attached to those teeth. You have to be consciously aware of that all the time. Um,
and I would think
so
empathy, of course, empathy,
yeah,
uh, tremendous amounts of empathy. I would think patience. You
yes,
have the quality of patience. I know some of my students are very impatient, and
uh-huh,
if you're impatient, you just don't fit into certain careers. Um,
yes.
yeah,
You absolutely have to have patience and uh yeah, the ability to realize that, hey, you may be doing the same thing tomorrow on a different person, and for some reason, it's taking you twice as long. And so you just have to be able to slow down, take a breath, and just keep moving forward in the right direction.
right,
So,
right.
yeah.
And a 14-year-old asked, how do you handle patients who are deathly afraid of going to the dentist?
We have our dog come to the office.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we have had a dog in that office for 28 years, and I will tell you that is a very calming, uh, it's just something very calming about having a dog that when you see a very nervous patient, um, this guy not so much. In the past, we had an English Mastiff that she would come and put her head on patients' laps that were
Oh,
she felt it. She knew that they were nervous. Um, and it was a beautiful thing to watch her take the stress right out of them. But there's medications, obviously anti-anxiety medications, and yeah, I mean, I think you just talk to people, and yeah, some people who are deathly afraid, you may not. It may be two or three visits of you just talking and interacting with them before you actually start doing any of the dental work. And some people need that. They need a little more introduction time. Uh,
and is it easier to work with adults or children, or does it really depend on the person?
it's on the individual. I have kids that are better than adults and vice versa. It's yeah, very individual.
Uh, well, other than dental knowledge, what other skills do you need to have? I'm sure I would think you'd need to have business skills. Uh,
Yes,
yeah. Mhm.
absolutely business skills, which they teach you some of that in dental school, but I think there's additional we have to do continuing education, and I always take some business classes on that. Uh, I think the most important is the eye hand coordination. I think that's a biggie. If you maybe if someone finds themselves they like to carve wood or work with clay or model things like that. You see it. You see it in a person who's very detail oriented also, that
Mm,
hey, this person could be a dentist, like a jeweler. I have a patient was in today. He's a jeweler, and we talk about our work together because it's very similar. It's very very small, very detail oriented work, and I think that's the biggie for
mhm,
being a dentist.
mm. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. And
yeah.
how young do you work? When do you tell kids to come in? At what
To start
age?
around two,
Mm,
around 2 or 3 years of age. Um, and I do have some patients that bring their 2 year olds. There are pediatric dentists that a lot of who specialize in seeing children, and so if you have a child in there, if I have a child in my chair who's just not having it, and it's very easy to sense that you get a sense for, you just take a step back and maybe try again another time. Or you can refer them to a pediatric dentist who has specialized in it, and they have a bigger toolbox in dealing with a child who's nervous, or going to be a challenge.
Right. I would think kids would move a lot or try to wiggle a lot, and you're trying to.
Again, very individual. I have children and adults who wiggle around a lot,
Oh, okay.
and we and you have to ask them to stop because it's much easier working on a still target.
Yeah, yeah. And how important is it to build a relationship with patients? I know in
I think
you said, you have relationships with patients, but I would think just the human interaction and the relationship building between patients and doctor would be huge.
I think it's huge. I think it's the primary, uh building that trust, that relationship. Because when you do build that and you get someone who's more relaxed and they're more comfortable, it becomes your job becomes easier. When the patient's relaxed, you're relaxed with them. It just the work comes out better. I mean, you literally can see it, if the relationship is good and solid. You know.
And can you talk about the difference between running your own practice and being a dentist with under a corporate company?
Uh,
Um,
I
or
can't because I've never worked for a corporate.
oh, okay,
Uh, yeah,
okay, good.
so
And what
I,
made you want to be an individual dentist and not work for one of the big names?
when I was younger, I had a lot of energy and I felt like it was something that I wanted more so than just showing up for a job and a paycheck. And uh, you, you hear some stories about the corporate dentists, being pushed a little harder, and they're under time constraints because
Mhm.
they've got a quota to fill or something like that. I just felt like, the private practice, you get to make those decisions, and if you're running late with somebody, then you run late, and you just, if you have to call the next patient and say, hey, we need to reschedule you because of such and such, or then you can do that. You don't get into this situation where you're constantly watching the clock. More important that the work comes out correct,
Right.
than in a timely manner, or
And how, since you run your own business, how do you market? Or in the beginning, when you started, how were you marketing your
in the
business?
beginning, we were using the yellow pages. I don't know if they know what the yellow page.
They won't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm dating myself, huh? And that was a biggie. That really, and so I don't know what today's equivalent. Now I don't market. I don't really market at all. It's all word of mouth. Yeah,
It's all word of mouth
yeah.
implementation.
After 28 years, it's all word of mouth. Um, but in the beginning, it was primarily the yellow pages. I think we put some advertising in some of the local newspapers. The
Mhm.
internet wasn't. That was 1996 when we started, so the internet wasn't used so much as it is now, and so I think that's, maybe the equivalent of the yellow pages is a good website,
Mhm.
and
Right,
having, getting your business model out there on the internet,
right.
which today I don't even have a website. I just, we
Just
we
word
had
of
one for a while, and we're we're so busy just word of mouth now that I find it unnecessary. So yeah,
That's great. It's a great situation to be in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because those yellow page ads, they were expensive.
I used to advertise too in the Yellow Pages years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. There, and I was like, wow, this is expensive, but it worked out. It really we were getting people coming in from that, so and I think that's how it was. Maybe back then, that's how it was primarily done was Yellow Pages, and maybe you saw some advertising in a newspaper. But
right.
when I went to dental school, advertising was almost shameful to advertise and try to really promote your um, but you have to if you're just getting started, and I I just hung my shingle on the door. I didn't buy someone's practice, and so we started from zero patients, and yeah, it was a rough first couple of years. They were they were not always so easy, but we just kept at it, and slowly but surely, we're at a pretty comfortable place.
Great. And a 16-year-old asked if you do volunteer work or if you do help people in other countries, and it's in your bio. But can you talk
Yes,
about what you do and what
yeah,
your work with?
sure. So we have gone to Jamaica a few times with a group of eye doctors. Um, and so and we've been to Nepal a couple of times also. And primarily in those clinics, uh, you primarily are extracting teeth. You run into people who are just really they have no access to healthcare in these remote locations. Yeah, primarily it's just extracting teeth. In Nepal, they were trying to set up because it was so remote. They were trying to set up a clinic to do fillings, but then you start. You can spend an hour or an hour and a half with one patient, and you've got 20 people waiting in line who have bad teeth that really need to come out. And so do you do a lot for one person or a little bit for a lot of people? And it is a hard decision. uh Jamaica, one of our trips to Jamaica almost brought me to tears,
Mm.
because so many people needed help and we ran out of time. And so
Do you travel once a year, how often do
once every few years. Yeah, yeah, once. Yeah, they some of the places they kind of died down a little bit during the COVID thing. People were afraid to travel so much, and so kind of went in the wayside. So we have not been since 2019, but we're working on going back to Jamaica uh, next year.
good,
Yeah,
good,
so every few years we try to go.
good.
It's an expense. We call the suppliers and ask for donations. Most of them willingly donate whatever you ask for. And then you have getting yourself there, getting everything organized. That's all personal. We do some fundraising that can help also, but yeah,
Good.
it's extremely rewarding.
I
Um,
bet.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Good, good. And a 10-year-old kid asks, what's the strangest thing you've ever seen in a patient's mouth? I just
Yeah,
ask what the kids tell me to ask. We listen to kids.
yeah. The strangest thing. I've seen some tongue piercings that are pretty strange. But as far as I'm not sure
Yeah.
where if we're going with dental disease or uh you know extra
Mhm.
teeth, not enough teeth. Um, boy, sometimes all of it seems strange. But
Well, from what I've read, it's funny. I've read that just the evolution, our jaws have actually changed through
yeah,
evolution. And it's fascinating to read about and to study and see the
yeah,
museum and how our jaws thousands of years ago were quite different than now.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
almost
We
have too many teeth for our jaws, and our food is so soft.
Yes. We're not hunting the animals ourselves and eating raw vegetables and raw meats and
Mhm.
yeah, our bony structure has gotten smaller.
Right.
And so that's why a lot of times you'll see people who we remove the third molars, the wisdom teeth,
Yeah.
because they just don't have the room for them. Yeah, yeah. Over the millennia, we have not necessarily shorter, but less structurally strong.
Right. Interesting. Well, how do you deal with tongue piercings? I mean, do you have to, what is it in the way of working with the teeth, or how,
Sometimes,
or do they take it
sometimes
out? Do they take,
some can take them out. Uh, I have seen one that was the tongue was so badly infected. Uh,
oh,
I was actually scared for the patient. I sent him right over to the oral surgeon, and they had to surgically remove it. Um,
oh,
and I don't know if that fits the strangest one, but like I said, I was nervous for the patient because how swollen their tongue was.
mm,
Um, yeah, you couldn't see the piercing. It was the thing that whatever was in there, you couldn't see it. The tongue had swelled around it.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Mm,
And so,
yeah,
uh, you, those things they chip their teeth with them, and I know a lot of people, younger people, are doing that. But I always say it's probably not a good idea.
right.
You know,
And what about vaping and smoking and those things? Do they damage teeth and the mouth?
that more so the gums, the soft tissues. I don't know that the vaping has been around long enough to know that all the damage
Mhm.
that's happening. But I certainly do. You see it in the soft tissues. Chewing tobacco, one of the worst.
Mm,
You end up with oral cancers, and you can see the damage occurring
right.
from where they put the
Mm,
tobacco in the mouth. And people who are heavy smokers, vapors, you can see it. The soft tissues are red. They're inflamed.
oh,
They're angry. They don't look like a nice pink, healthy
right,
the way things normally should be.
right,
So we
right.
always try to deter from
Yeah,
smoking heavily. Uh,
yeah, definitely. Stay healthy.
yes.
Oh, well, I think that's all the questions that I had and that some of the students had. But I end every interview with my own questions. And one is, what advice would you give young people today?
Uh, Advice. I would say, something that it's probably going to sound so old-fashioned, but I would say stay in school, work hard in
Yeah.
school, pay attention.
Mhm.
There's so much time after school to be on your phone and interact with your friends, and to me, I see that as one of the problems today is that they're not paying attention enough in school to what at the task at hand.
Right.
Maybe put down the phone would be
Right.
would be a
Yes.
good way to summarize it.
Yeah. Well, again, we need that human interaction and that
Yeah,
connection and that face to face. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. And my second question is, what gives you hope in this world?
Ah, gives me hope. One of the things we went to see a concert in Folsom Field in Boulder this summer. It was Tyler Childers.
Yeah.
And it was a young crowd that was there, but they were very pleasant. They had manners. They said, "Excuse me, please, and thank you." And I
Mm,
thought, wow, there's kids out there that they're they know how to behave, they know how to interact with adults, and
Yeah,
um, it really gave me hope. I didn't I thought that was had gone the wayside, but it has not.
good,
Yeah.
good. And the last one is who inspires you?
Who inspires me? Boy, I would say my father, who's been gone 16 years, still
Mm,
inspires me.
yeah,
I can still hear his voice in my head.
yeah,
Just of ways, the way to live life, and uh, yeah, I would say it would be him.
yeah. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say, or anything you feel like I missed, or anything you'd like
Uh,
to close on?
I don't think so, Felicity. I would just say to kids that might be interested in dentistry is, give it a good look. It's been a very good, fulfilling career for me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And we're going to need more dentists. And that's actually a job that I don't think AI could ever take over.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. If they could figure out how to grow new teeth, we'd be onto something. And people have been talking about it since I was in dental school.
Yeah.
Uh, you have a bad tooth, just get rid of it and grow a new one.
Yeah.
Would be
But it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
AI can figure that one out.
Yeah. Maybe so. Maybe
Yeah.
so. Oh, well, thank you. It's just been delightful to talk to you. Thank you. The students will just love hearing what you have to
Ah,
say.
thank
And
you. So happy to be here.
and if the students have any questions, may they reach out to me and I send questions to you?
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
More than happy to. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're
All right. Well, everybody, I will put all of Dr. Ranucci's information in the links below and all
great.
the information for One Voice for Change in the links below. And I thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this interview. And do reach out to me if you have any questions about dentistry. Do think about the career. It's a wonderful career. And Dr. Ranucci will answer all your questions. So I look forward to seeing you grow in your profession. I mean, you've been 28 years and you probably have a lot more years left.
I hope so. I
Yeah,
hope so.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good,
Yeah.
good. Well, thank you so much. All right,
You're welcome.
thank you everybody, and
Uh,
goodbye. We'll see you
have
next time.
have a
Bye.
good night.
Bye.